Okay, today as promised, I'm going to do the tutorial for this diagonal shell stitch. And as you can see, for this first one, it was the first one I did. It was with 3 5-ounce balls or skeins of that striped variegated. And as I mentioned previously, I did run out just a little bit at that very end, but had enough of scraps to finish it off there. And then the second one here is the other experiment that I did. Again, taking what I learned from the first one, starting with this darker color and ending with the lighter color at the end. What I did there to conserve a little bit was to go ahead and work all the way to the end of the strand of that particular lighter color, and then actually rip it back out to the end and then change the colors at the end, just to make sure that I would have enough for that ending corner, and that's what I have left of that. In order to work these, I did go, per the label instructions, and I found it was a little easier to go with a slightly larger hook versus like a G or an H size hook. So I did use the I or 9 or the 5.5 millimeter hook, and it just seemed to work a little better there. So to get started, we're just going to start with our slip knot there. And as you work this, you'll see that the basic pattern emerges pretty quickly. And so in order to start, we're going to chain 6. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in the actual instructions, it'll tell you to double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook, so that would be 2, 3, 4. But with this pattern, it's just as easy to count from your beginning and do 1, 2, 3, because you'll have this beginning chain piece, and then you'll have your 3 crochet there. So go ahead and start that. So there's 1, 2, and 3 double crochet, and again you can see there's 1, 2, 3 double crochet and your chain, your beginning chain. Now to work up, that's basically the first row there. To start working up, you'll chain 6 again. So there's 1, 2, 3, and as I mentioned before, just as easy to count that way. And just go ahead and hold on to that 3rd chain, and then 4, 5, and 6. And again, the chain that you're holding on to will be the one you will want to work your double crochet. So there's 1, 2, and 3. So again, there's 1, 2, 3 double crochet and your beginning chain there. Now, especially at the beginning, it'll want to lay like this. So at that point is where you'll want to turn and do a slip stitch into that chain space, just to connect that together, and then you'll chain 1, 2, 3, and then do 3 more double crochet in that chain space. So there's 1, 2, and 3, and that is the end of the second row. Again, we're still building up, so we're going to chain 6. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then double crochet in that 3rd chain there. So there's 1, 2, 3 double crochet and your chain there. And again, this is where you'll want to flip that up or turn and then slip stitch into that next chain space. And another quick tip, when you're coming to the ends, it's a little easier to just go ahead and fold that last cluster over to kind of get it out of your way so you don't actually accidentally hook it. I'm going to chain 1, 2, 3, and then 3 double crochet in that chain space. It's 2 and 3. And again, moving on, you'll be slip stitch into that next chain space. 1, 2, 3 chain, and then 1, 2, 3 double crochet. I'm going to go ahead and do one more row of the building up, and then we'll start doing the decrease. As you can see, basically every cluster on your edge is one row. So if you were working, so many rows with one color, it'd be real easy to tell that that's 1, that's 2, there's 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so again, we just finished the third row, and we're going to build up one more row. So we'll chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then getting into that third chain there. 1, 2, and 3 double crochet. And then again, this is where you'll turn and start working back up. Do slip stitch in that chain space, chain 1, 2, 3, and then 3 double crochet in that chain space. And then you slip stitch into the next chain space. 1, 2, 3 chain. 1, 2, 3 double crochet, and now we're at towards the end, the last one on this row. It'll be a slip stitch, chain 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3 double crochet. Now at this point, this is about as much as that I've found on the written diagram instructions. So when you're actually reading the instructions, it can be a little confusing as to how to start decreasing or cornering off. So here we can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, and so now we're not going to chain any extra there. We're just going to go ahead and turn and then slip stitch across the top of those last 3 double crochet, and then one more slip stitch into your chain space, and then at this point you'll chain 1, 2, 3, and then just continue with your 3 double crochet. So there's 3, and then your slip stitch, chain 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3 double crochet, slip stitch into this one, next one, chain 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3 double crochet. Now since we're cornering off, you can see, make that little corner on the beginning side there, we're going to go ahead and slip stitch into that next chain. And instead of, well, if you wanted to make it a more rectangle, like I did with mine, you could go ahead and build up so many on this side, but for just a regular square, or if you were doing like the 2-color pinwheel type pattern, you would actually have changed your color down here before you started doing your decrease. But again, you could do, one edge continuing to grow and then one edge corner off, and that will give you the more rectangle look. But we're going to just go ahead and do it the square. So again, you just slip stitch into that chain space, and turn, and then slip stitch, no extra chains, just slip stitch across the top of those last 3 crochets, and then slip stitch one more time into that chain space, and this is where you'll pick up your 3 chains, and 1, 2, 3 double crochet, slip stitch in that next chain, and then 1, 2, 3 chains, and 1, 2, 3 double crochet. And again, we're at the end of this row and the end of this edge, so we're slip stitch into that next chain space, turn, and slip stitch in the top of the last 3, double crochet, and then one more slip stitch into that chain space. Okay, so now we're basically ready to do our last corner piece. So we'll chain 1, 2, and 3, and do 3 double crochet in that chain space, and slip stitch that next chain space. And instead of just leaving it here to finish off, you'll want it to give a neater appearance. Go ahead and finish off by slip stitching across those last 3 stitches again, and one more in that chain space. And then to finish off, you'll probably want to go ahead and do 1 chain, maybe 2, depending on how it works out. And go ahead and pull that out, and then that's where you'll cut. And again, that shows you have corner to corner edges versus, something hanging out in the middle. And then probably the easiest way to hide your tails on here would be to go underneath those last stitches, and you can do this either with your hook or with a yarn needle. You'll be hiding in between those stitches, and just kind of follow that same zigzag pattern to do that. Okay, so, and then of course finish trimming. And then also, as you can tell, with the more solid color, you can get a nice little basket weave type pattern. So just keep that in mind if you wanted to do a full solid color piece, or just do little patches like this, little squares, and then put them together. And then in that case, you would be putting them together like a granny square pattern as well. So there is the diagonal shell stitch. Thanks for watching.